You can now get a 30-day trial to experience The Athletic for free. Visit the link in the description below to try it now.
Hello, welcome to Tifo IRL, I'm JJ Bull. In this video we're going to talk about Burnley and Sean Dyche and question whether he is the most underrated manager in the Premier League. Might sound like high praise, but if you think about it, nobody likes playing against Burnley, even though they spent no money on anyone ever, and their players don't look particularly amazing. I mean, we're not going to pick these for the top four, yet Burnley survive every single year on a tiny budget, and maybe that makes Sean Dyche underrated. Does it? Let's find out. So here are some things about Burnley that might interest you. So Dyche took over in 2012, took them out of the Championship, they got relegated, but then he got them back up again. That's 6 years in a row he's been at Burnley. Burnley also played in Europe, they got to the Europa League, knocked out by Olympiacos, and they're still in the Premier League 6 seasons after that. And according to Transfer Market, they've done that with the second lowest value squad in the entire league. So, I mean, you think this year, every year you think maybe they'll go down because they don't have the players that are as good as others, perhaps, but they're here every single year. And this is what they look like. It's normally a 4-4-2, a good old 4-4-2. It's no nonsense. They have the get stuck in button firmly put on all of the time, and teams hate playing against them. But they do everything in a very highly drilled, controlled manner. Now, they don't do things like, they don't try and do things they can't. They don't try and play out from the back and play through pretty lines or anything like that. And what they often do is, well, we can look at how they build up play. So rather than building through the first phase of build up by going from pass to pass to pass to pass, which encourages a high press and is the kind of thing that skillful teams like Manchester City or Liverpool might be able to do because they have the individuals capable of it, what they do is just mash it up the pitch. And they do this by playing goal kicks long. And you see how rammed and crammed this kind of looks. But the idea is they have players like Chris Wood and Ashley Barnes who can just win these balls. So where you have players or managers like Pep Guardiola who will look to maximise all control of a game, where the pass goes to player, to player, to player, to build up play, to move the team up the pitch, Burnley to smash it up here because they know they're more likely to win these battles. And they win the majority of the aerial battles as well. In fact, this season so far, Chris Wood has contested the most aerials. He's contested 52. He's won 25 of them. And then you've got Ashley Barnes and Ben Mee in there as well. In fact, of the top 10 for aerials contested so far this season, Burnley have 4 in there out of the entire league. It's a lot. So this is one way they get out from the back. When teams trying to press them high, which is quite a popular thing to do, makes sense, they just go long. And they have this, the way they control the chaos is by having players in the right places to win the second ball. So they don't win the first, they always seem to know how to win the second. So Wood might knock this on and then Barnes can try and win it here. More often than not, he'll knock it back to someone like McNeil. And this is how most of Burnley's chances are created, through Dwight McNeil, who's really come on. He's come through the youth system. I think he's at Man United as a youngster, but he's an out-and-out winger. Now, a lot of things they do, you'll have Taylor acts as an overlapping fullback. You've got Loughton that does kind of the same. If we look at their shape, actually, the way it works. So the most creative players in the team, statistically, Ashley Westwood is one of the best progressive passers they have and does an awful lot with the ball. If he's in these sorts of positions in the final third, plays a lot of chipped crosses to the back post, things like that. But Dwight McNeil is hugely important. So what they'll try and do is get the ball to one of Wood or Barnes. Barnes often drops in as this kind of 10 here. And when McNeil gets on the ball, his job then is to try and get up the pitch to get balls into the box for one of the strikers. Because then you've got Barnes and Wood. They don't tend to send too many players forward at once. But what you'll have is Westwood and Brownhill always protect the sort of a safety net. So if Burnley are trying to build from the back, what they'll do actually, we'll put them up here. And they're 4-4-2, always a 4-4-2. Now, if they have the ball, like say Ben Mee's got it here, and McNeil's being watched by an opposition player, let's give them some opponents to play against. Say you have the right back is paying attention to Dwight McNeil, who's pushed right up the pitch over here. What Dwight McNeil often does is make this sort of movement inside here to encourage Taylor to make this run ahead of him. So the midfielder, if we bring him a 4-2-3-1 like this, This is what it might look like sometimes. McNeil pushes sort of here. This might be the right back's job, might be the midfielder's job. Either way, McNeil makes this sort of move into midfield, which allows Taylor to move up. And then me or Tarkowski is often going to just ping it into the channel. And as soon as they get here, then McNeil can kind of join in. And then you get Charlie Taylor over here. And the cross almost always goes to the back post. And it's not about trying to get Barnes or Wood to score with the first header. It's often that this first header is then knocked across the box for the other lad, Chris Wood, to come in and try and finish. It's how a lot of their chance creation comes from. And a lot of it's to do with the profile of player that Burnley can sign. So Dyche has had to sign players on a very limited budget. In fact, the most expensive player he's ever signed is Ben Gibson, who is a central defender currently on loan at Norwich. He signed Ashley Barnes for about £500,000. That's kind of what you're dealing with. So he signs players that are big, strong, can contest these battles, because that is the most likely, that's the most effective way they can attack. They can't, or they haven't spent the money to afford the players that can do more than that. So they're kind of limited to what they do. So we know there's very little messing around from Burnley when they build out from the back. Rather than try and play slowly, they just get the ball up the pitch, whether it's hitting channel balls for someone to run into, or whether it's just getting the ball to forward. It's not that it's nonsensical long ball football, it's just making use of the strengths that they have. And when they defend in a very tight 4-4-2 block. So if the team's building up in the back like this, Wood and Barnes will make sure they've got the two. That shows play wide because they play the narrow shape in their block. Now, the ball side midfielder will always come and join to form this sort of 4-3-3 shape when they do this. And they press a lot higher than you might think they do. Burnley don't just sit back all the time. In fact, when you play against teams like Arsenal, you'll often find that you get this sort of shape where the centre-backs and one full-back are on a line across the halfway line, and one of the full-backs overlaps. They're quite aggressive in how they do that. And that helps them pin teams back, so when they then launch the ball forward, they can win it and they can squeeze the pitch and win the second ball, one of the things they're very good at doing. But as part of their block, this is what they do. The ball side midfielder will move towards where the ball goes. That because the ball's been shown wide by the two strikers. You see there's two here. That shows the ball wide. And then he's got an option to either try and get it into this position here, which is hard to do, or he goes backwards more often than not. And the idea is you want to try and push the team backwards so they eventually clear it. Because when they clear it, Burnley squeeze up, get all the big lads together at once, and they win the header because they're very good at winning those aerial balls. That's the strength that they have that other teams don't. Now, if the opposition team gets past that line, the first line of press, and they get into midfield, which a lot of teams do, Burnley will fall back very quickly into this extremely narrow, tight 4-4-2 block. And what you'll often find is Ashley Barnes even comes back as a kind of 4-1-4-1 guy, like a 10. It's not really a 10, but that's what happens. And there's just no space. There's no space to really play in for anyone. So it means that the opposition are stuck trying to create something against a team that has blocked the entire middle of the pitch. And then what they'll do is they'll move from side to side. So if the ball is then shown wide, the entire team will move over this side. If the team then switches the play and tries to move over to this side, the entire team will move this way. And it will move as one whole unit to block it. And the benefit then is because all the space is out wide, the opposition, say this is the left back, can try and overlap here, get on the ball. And because they have Tarkowski, me, even Loughton, you've got Westwood, Brownhill, Goodmanson, McNeil, Barnes will help out. That ball in the box, it's very unlikely you're winning that ball in the box. It's not going to happen because these guys tend to win it. And this is where Dyche plays to his strengths. He has players who aren't amazing technically, but who are going to win these battles. And by creating moments of randomness and chaos, Burnley have a big advantage. And what I have here is a little example of what Burnley are kind of up against and how difficult it is for them to play. So this is an example of just a move that Liverpool did against them. Burnley have their team here. This isn't the exact team that lined up, I don't think, but the ball was over here somewhere. The defence is wandering around, so you can see the two strikers are trying to block and show the play wide. The ball side midfielder, ball side being nearest where the ball is, wants to come over here, and that's what it looks like. But Liverpool are just a better team. They're just a better team with better players. So they are able to send players forward and overload. And you see, while they normally be a 4-3-3, we can maybe have like this. What they do is they push players up to overload. So you know Burnley are going to defend with the back four. So Liverpool push 5 forward straight away to overload them. and then you can get this guy up here, and straight away Burnley in trouble because this block, they're not fast, these guys, Wood and Burns. They can't really do too much. They're not going to be able to get back in position to help. They're just trying to show the play wide. But they launch the ball over to the side. I think it's this guy here, Harvey Elliott, pulls out wide. He plays inside to someone like this here. He pulls in here, and Sadio Mane ends up scoring this amazing volley from this kind of move. But it's all from an overload, because the thing Burnley have is they're very good at what they do, but everyone knows how they're going to play. They adapt from game to game, they change where they press, where the high line goes, where they engage, but they mostly do the same thing. They're just very good at it. And that's the next thing we should talk about, is what Dyche has done so well with them. So tactically, Burnley are absolutely sound. They adapt from game to game, but they're quite limited by what they have. They don't have an awful lot of options, and if you look at their squad, according to Transfer Market again, they have 10 foreigners listed in their squad as compared to Man City's 17 or Brentford's 25. They tend to sign the same profile of player that suits Dyche's team. And what he's done is forge a unit with a strong mentality that means that players, like, you don't think of Josh Brownhill or Ashley Westwood being the best players in the entire world, yet they're keeping this team in the Premier League every single season. Players like Jack Cork as well, you can get off the bench. They've done a real good job for them as well. There's a chance that this season they might change a couple of things, maybe adapt, add a back three system that they could do. But generally, the thing that Sean Dyche has done so well is forge the team that doesn't lose. No one likes playing against them. They're really hard to break down. They're very aggressive and competitive, and it puts teams off playing. So you'll often find that a team tries to play through them, will instantly, say this ball comes from a midfielder into this 10 here. Brownhill will be into him in a second, and aware that Brownhill's coming into him from behind, he'll just instantly release it backwards and the ball goes back. Then he retreats. So it's kind of, they stop players going through them by threatening to go through them. It's a kind of a weird aggression that works in this Premier League system for Burnley. But like we say, he hasn't spent a lot of money. They've earned a lot of money, they haven't spent it. They have players that aren't amazing. And in Dyche's entire 9-year tenure at Burnley, he hasn't got past the 4th round of the League Cup. They've only twice reached the 5th round of the FA Cup, and Dyche has a 36.3% win ratio, which isn't amazing. They also have the highest average age in the league. So it could be that this 4-year deal gives Dyche a chance to rebuild a whole new squad. A couple of additions he signed in the summer, but some of these guys are going to need to be replaced at some point soon. Some of them are at a good age, like Barnes and, I don't know, Tarkowski, good age to play. But yeah, Burnley aren't amazing, but Sean Dyche has done a very good job. If he had money, perhaps he'd do a lot more, but we won't know that until he goes somewhere else. And he's not going anywhere, he's just signed a new 4-year deal. So that's why Sean Dyche might be the most underrated manager in the Premier League. He maybe isn't, maybe he is. It's up to you to decide. Tell me in the comments how wrong I am. And that's all from me today. Have a lovely time.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic brings you the best sports journalism in the world in a personalised experience, connecting you with the stories and teams that you care about the most. There's coverage of 13 sports, plus direct access to world-class journalists through live Q&As, discussions and podcasts. Not to mention, it's all ad-free. And you can try it now for free for 30 days by clicking the link in the description.